Hi and welcome everybody to another Momleader series. Today I'm excited to have Janice with me. I'm going to let her introduce herself. So please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Janis Isaman. I am the owner and founder of My Body Couture, which is a one-to-one fitness studio based in Calgary, although I also, of course, do online work. And I'm the mother and lone parent of a 9-year-old boy.
Okay, this is awesome. And I'm really excited about this one because today Janice and I will be talking about rocking lone parenting and also entrepreneurship. So I'm going to ask her a lot of questions about how did she do it, how is she doing it, how is she getting help. So please, Janice, just tell us about your journey into entrepreneurship, and that might influence someone else's journey as well.
Wonderful. I actually opened a business after I became a lone parent. So that is sometimes a typical path in, sometimes it is not. But for me, that is how it happened. So I actually used to be in a completely different career, and I was working my current job as a side hustle. So if you were to look at how they, and I put that in quotations, tell you to start a business, I did all the right things. When I had paid employment that was secure with a salary, I did all of the training, the education, purchased supplies, etc. And then when I had a baby and left that job, then I was all set. I had already done all of the work with clients. I had figured out how to price. I had client testimonials. I had the equipment. I had training. That all said, this wasn't some very purposeful path. It just was a moment where my corporate job no longer fit my life as a lone parent. So when my child was somewhere between 1 and 2, I opened a bricks and mortar business. So I don't necessarily recommend that, but I also don't regret doing that.
Wow. Between 1 and 2, I can just imagine juggling that. So
Yeah.
you literally had 2 babies. You had your business that was the younger baby, and then you had your baby. Because that's
Yeah.
how it is with entrepreneurship. It's like this baby you're nurturing and watching grow. So tell me, I have this big question. Did you get help when you were on that journey?
I did.
Okay.
So one of the reasons for the career shift was actually a physical location shift. So I used to work in the media. I was a fashion media executive. The media is not based in the city where I live. So there are media outlets here, absolutely. But I had come to a place in that career where I was a certain specialty. I was at a certain level, and that's just not super available here to the same extent. So that's not a criticism or a critique of the media where I currently live. It's just a different landscape. So I ended up moving and looking at kind of the pieces of my life. I am naturally very entrepreneurial as it is, but my family is based in the city where I currently live. My sister is here, and that was a primary reason for actually staying, because I think friends definitely helped me out in the city where I used to live. But there does come a point of fatigue where friends can only do so much. One can't really realistically open a business with the support of friends, because that calls a lot on friends.
Friendship, yes.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And so there were times, to be quite honest, it even strained the relationship with my sister, because I did need a lot of support and I did need a lot of help. Because to your point, it was kind of like having twins, where the needs of each of those both pulled on me quite a bit. And so there was some points definitely of conflict. For the most part, it's gone quite smoothly, but there was definitely moments when that was a pull and a drain as well.
Okay. So my last question before I ask the big question. Okay, so how did you squeeze in self-care when you were going through all that?
I love that question. Well, to be super honest, I spent a number of years where I didn't squeeze that in.
Okay.
I literally, when I opened the business, the one mistake I did make was not really putting personal boundaries on my business.
Right.
Because my child was so small, I realistically hadn't even adapted to motherhood before I opened the business.
Wow. Yeah.
And we can all probably relate to the idea of who we were before motherhood and who we have transitioned into being. I hadn't made that transition. And on some level, that's part of what allowed me to open that business, because I didn't know what I didn't know. On other levels, that's was problematic. It actually ended up creating problems, because in the early days of my business, if I had a client who wanted to see me at 6 a.m, I would get up at 4:30 or 5, drive my child to my sister's house, drop him off, drive down to the studio, see the client, and do that in reverse. That's a lot of time for one single client. If that was today, I would simply say, I don't work at 6 a.m. I would be happy to see you another time or refer you to somebody else. But at that moment, I was getting started and I didn't really realize the drain that doing that would put on my life. So around year 3, I actually had a physical breakdown. I just was burned out, exhausted, sick, you name it, it happened.
Wow.
So following that, clearly it has become a core priority to put self-care into the mix, but I didn't know what I didn't know, because in my pre-child life, I could take those extra weekends off. I could sleep in. It's just those little times that you don't even realize are happening that refresh and restore you. Sure. But with a child, I would go home and shift into another gear, which wasn't focused on rest and relaxation.
Yeah, for sure. I know what you're talking about. I started my business too when my first child was really young. And just understanding, even like what you mentioned, like mom identity, like who are you now that you're mom? You're just figuring that out. And now you're now an entrepreneur. Who are you as a and then someone walks you and telling you about niching. You're like, niche? I'm still figuring all of this out. Yeah. And then self-care is the first thing that we just strike off, because we see ourselves like superhumans, like we're just going to power through. And of course, it also affects a relationship with the child as well, because we don't want to create a business that they don't like,
Sure.
Your kids, like they feel like that's what's between their love between you and them. And that might not be the case. We have a great reason for creating the business, but we just want to make sure that we don't communicate a wrong reason, right? Okay, so my big question is, what is your advice for lone parents out there? They're thinking of starting their own business, or they're currently starting their business. Just go all out, share your heart of what you think would be your best advice to those kind of people.
My best advice is look at what you can shed out of your life in terms of responsibilities, in terms of things that do not matter. I think I was about a year into my business and I needed to move. So I needed to move into my permanent home where I actually currently still live.
Yeah.
And at that time, there weren't a lot of real estate opportunities in the city where I live. So I narrowed it down. I literally had like 10 choices, but I narrowed it down to 2. One was really close to my office, but it's a condo. And one was about a 20-minute drive away that had a yard with grass. And I know. And so that felt like a huge toss-up. But at the end of it, I chose to live close to work. I called my brother and he gave me some of the best advice, which was the biggest resource that you have is your time. You can drive to grass, but you cannot eliminate that 20-minute each way commute if you take that on. Right. Years later, I still live in the same place. And what I would say is I do not actually value having a large home. This is just speaking for me personally. So I'm not imposing my values on anybody else.
Yeah, for sure.
But when I look at all of the ways that people around me spend their time in terms of maintaining a home, that's something that doesn't add any value to my life. What I find value in is going and doing things. I live near the city center, so outside of the COVID environment, there's events, there's activities, there's museums, there's galleries, there's restaurants. That is what I love to do. I personally don't love mowing the lawn, taking the garbage out, shoveling snow, things like that.
Yep.
So I really did an audit of what matters to me. I did that with my finances as well. I went through an exercise where I figured out the top 3 things that made me feel financially abundant, and I got rid of the rest. So the biggest advice that I have is you have to do that audit. You really have to go in to yourself, and the things that I just gave as an example, that might not resonate with you at all, but there's going to be something that we kind of culturally and societally do, whether that's owning a vehicle, taking vacations, living in a home, having a yard, even having a relationship that just might not add value. That might come as number 4 or 5 or 6 or number 27 on your list.
Right.
You have to whittle that down to what matters, because I don't think that I give up anything.
Right.
I'm sure that I actually do, but I don't even notice that it's gone.
You don't feel it. Yeah.
I don't feel it. And so I don't notice the lack of a yard. I don't feel absent because I don't live in a home. I feel abundant because I'm in a condo. But what that did was save me 40 minutes of driving every day. That gives me time to spend with my child. It gives me time to cook or to clean or to do any of those 1.5 million obligations or fun things that we have on our list. Wow. So that's my best advice to a lone parent who wants to be an entrepreneur. You've got to hack some things off your list.
I love that advice so much. And I feel like anybody else listening that is not even a lone parent is a question you need to ask yourself. Like, because I teach moms about time management. And the first thing I tell moms to do is to do an audit of your time. You need to figure out what you're doing with your day. Like when you do, you'd be so shocked the amount of things that you actually do that you really need to do. And there's some things that you should let go of. And I love the advice that you just given on top of that is maybe sometimes if you spend so much time cleaning your house, maybe it's time to downsize if no one is using the rooms.
Correct.
You know, I've had clients in my coaching program where I tell them, you know what, how about you lock up those rooms? Like you're cleaning the guest room. There is no guests coming. Like,
right.
Just lock up the rooms. And if you're not careful, if you have so much space, you might even amass things that you don't need. So do an audit of your life. That's what you're saying. I love that so much. And the truth is, it's very important for every mom to do that, because when you become a mom, you change. Things have changed. Your priorities have changed. So now is a good time to really look in yourself and ask yourself, what are the important things as a mom and as an entrepreneur? I love that so much. So my big question would be, how did you handle mom guilt? Or how are you handling mom guilt?
Mom guilt for me comes and goes. And my mom guilt doesn't tend to be attached to one particular activity or one particular moment. It tends to be, this week I haven't really maybe been as present in my son's life. So there's 2 ways that I handle that. One is I ask for help externally. So I have done that in big ways and small ways. My son is part of Big Brothers Big Sisters. So that is a organization that matches children with mentors. Right. So I know that on a very base level that he's got somebody else to help fill what maybe I can't consistently every day or every week. So that is really helpful. Mm-hmm. I also do live near family. And so just making sure that he's connected to my family. And we, of course, like normal families, have times that he sees them a lot, times that he doesn't see them for a while. Mm-hmm. But just calling on those resources and connecting him to other people in my network, other people in my community, because I cannot give one person everything that they need in their whole life. Right. And I feel really good about it because I think he gets perspective. There's different rules at my sister's house than at my house. There's different rules at my parents' house than at my house. So he can see how different people live their life. So number 1 is it takes a village. Right.
And can I just have that leverage the village? Because that's what we do as moms. We like to feel like superwomen. We don't want to ask for help, and we don't leverage the village that we have around us. So for some people listening, can I just say you might need to move now and move to where your sister lives? That is the truth. Maybe that's the solution you're looking for, right? Yeah, love that. Love that. So
I think actually I just want to mention leveraging the village, because I think there was a period as well that I felt personal guilt about leveraging the village,
oh, that,
because it did feel very one-sided, where I felt like I was getting benefit, and then there came a day when I realized, my parents probably like having a relationship with my son. My sister has also a child who's also an only child. So those two children get cousin time, and
wow.
they get to do all the things that siblings do. Only then they get to go away from each other. And so seeing that other people also benefited from this, it wasn't just a one-way street. And knowing that people could say no. I can ask my sister, I can ask my parents, I can ask for help, and people can say no, and that's okay. And so that was a big shift for me, when I thought it's actually up to them to put those boundaries on their time.
Right.
But I just now enter into that with the assumption that they want to hang out with my child, and they want to have that time in that relationship, and that it's a benefit to them as much as it is to me. So that helped me get over the leverage the village fear.
That's a really good one. I think the two things you kind of mentioned is, one, don't hold back, because they may actually enjoy helping you. And it's interesting, because I've had clients that say, oh, I asked my sister for help. And my sister was like, yeah, I was wondering why you never asked.
Yeah.
Because we don't like to intrude, right? So everyone is watching you handling all the stress. And on the outside, you look like you're doing a great job. So nobody's going to really be there to help. But the moment you ask, you'd be surprised the reaction you get from them.
And you're surprised, or at least I have been surprised, at who it is that steps forward. I've had a couple of moments where I literally posted on Facebook, like, I'm underwater, I just need help. And it's really astonishing who comes out of the woodwork of your personal network, who is more than happy to come and lend a hand on a short-term or even a longer-term basis. That has taken me by surprise many, many times. Okay. I think the second thing I'd have to say about mom guilt is just, you are a complete person. And having a child does not make you a less interesting or less complete person. So I've seen a lot of scenarios where people cut off their own passions, and women in particular are constantly told that the children must come first.
Right.
Children are going to take what they're given.
Mm-hmm.
And children do need a lot, but it's a fundamental 20-year period of my life, and I don't want to give him everything, because he will take everything, and that's not his fault. It's just what will happen. So I think that it's really important for me and for him to not come out of that 20-year period with my body broken down. Me being exhausted, me having adrenal fatigue, me not having any outside intellectual stimulation, me having a social network that wouldn't be my pick, but they're, whatever. It's his friends' parents. It'll do for now. So I think that it's really important for him to get the most from me, for me to be fully whole and complete, and not feeling like I'm doing everything out of this place of sacrifice. So I think that was a little bit of a push and pull for a while in terms of mom guilt, but now I know that I'm not doing a perfect job, but if I'm not filling my buckets, they're empty. And then at the end of it, then I will resent what I have given him.
I think that's the big one that you use, the resentment. Because if you give everything and years down the line, you're going to resent, losing those years. I don't think it's to anyone's advantage, right? And the truth about mom guilt is, I feel like it's like phases, right? So when you had a newborn baby, there's a kind of care that they need and time that they need. That phase will pass, and then you move on to the next phase and all of that. But the key thing you said, and I wanted to stress that, I'm going to look into the camera just to stress that, is leverage your sisters, leverage your family, and for goodness sakes, you can even leverage people that you've never met before.
You can.
If you don't ask for help, you would never know what help is out there.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, there's just so many people that are out there to help, and you just, I don't know if you get this, but like, I don't know what is with moms and asking for help.
I don't have the answer. I think, again, it comes back to that societal pressure that is actually put on us, that we're supposed to do it all. We're supposed to make it all look effortless.
Yeah.
And help must be weak or shameful. And I had to go through a long process to get rid of that idea that I could never ask for help. And even purged a few people from my community who said, oh, it's so brave of you to ask for help, in a very backhanded manner, of course. I don't think it's brave to ask for help. I think it's human. There is no human in history who has done everything 100% alone. It just doesn't exist. We would die.
Yeah.
Babies die if they don't get held. So I think this idea that we have to have this brave soul to ask help is put upon us. And I think you're absolutely right. Strangers have stepped up in ways that some of my community has not. Historically, I don't know if you knew this, but about 10% of women historically actually did not have children. And that gave the tribe resources, because it actually takes more than just parents to actually raise the children. Right. So that still exists. There are resources out there, people who genuinely have time, resources, skills, passion to give. And so I agree with you. Get after it and go find it.
Find the help and go after your dreams. Don't put your dreams on the back burner because you want to be with a child. I wanted to, really stress on one thing that you mentioned is there is no guilt if you love your business. I'm going to say that again. There's no guilt in loving your business, because moms, we feel a sense of shame that, I don't want my business to look like I love my business more than my kids. If you're an hardworking, high-performing mom and you love your business, there is no reason to feel guilty, because that's you. That's what you love doing, and just enjoy that season. Okay. Thank you so much, Janice. You've shared so many great things. I'm so excited. I'm trying to keep it cool. So just wondering, if there are moms out there that want to connect with you, how can they connect with you?
My business name is My Body Couture, and that's the best way to access me. So you can find me on the major social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, under My Body Couture. It's 3 words: my, M-Y, second word body, B-O-D-Y. Third word is couture, C-O-U-T-U-R-E. So you can follow me on any of those platforms, and you can also send me a direct message on any of those platforms. I'm also a writer for Elephant Journal, so you can find me under my personal name, Janis, Janis, spelled like Janis Joplin. My last name is Isaman, I-S-A-M-A-N, spelled like is-a-man, 3 words jammed together. So you can find me there, and also on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Janice, for coming. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I just love that you're keeping it real, and it's great connecting with you as well. So thank you so much. So that's it. We'll see you around.
Thank you.